Warning: this video contains super awesome content not suitable for people who don't enjoy super awesomeness.
Hey, what's up, Yang Yanrique here. So Warzone Mobile is officially out globally, and with that I've provided the ultimate movement guide to help you become a pro in the game. Today I'll be showing you some of the best movement techniques and how to effectively use them. Trust me, you're gonna want to implement all of these styles in your gameplay, so I'd highly suggest watching the video towards the end. If you find today's video helpful, make sure to drop a like, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe for more Warzone Mobile content. Also, let me know down in the comments below if you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, without further ado, let's hop right into it. Okay, so we're gonna kick things off with one of the most basic movement and arguably the easiest mechanic to learn in this game: strafing. Now, a lot of experienced FPS gamers already know what this is, but in case you don't, this is basically moving from side to side or left to right while continuously firing at your enemy. While performing this movement, it will make you a harder target to hit rather than just standing still. In my opinion, however, this movement is one of the least effective on this list, as there are far greater techniques with similar capabilities which I'll be discussing later on in this video. Now, with that out of the way, we're moving over to zigzagging. This is essentially one of those movement techniques which, if done correctly, can vastly throw your opponent's aim off, which ultimately makes you take less damage. You'll see a lot of pro players using this technique to outmaneuver their opponents or just trolling enemies in general. There's also situations where enemies are sniping and shooting at a distance, which performing this method will greatly contribute to your survival chances. To perform this technique effectively, you need to have your tactical sprint active while quickly moving your joystick left, right, or in a circular motion. You can also add a few slide cancelling in there to make it less predictable. Speaking of which, I'll be covering slide cancelling later on in this video, so make sure to stick around for that. Next on the list, Dolphin Dive. This movement mechanic is ideal for an immediate escape from enemy fire. It allows players to sprint and then dive into cover in the attempt to take as less damage as possible. To perform this technique, you simply tap the prone button while you're sprinting forward. However, if you have both your crouch and prone button merged, then the way to do this is completely different. Instead, you'd have to hold the button down while sprinting. But personally, I'd recommend having both buttons separated. And just in case you don't know how to do it, I'm gonna show you right now. Okay, so first you have to go into your HUD layout, tap the crouch or prone button, hit variants, and then you'll see the option to split the buttons. Again, later on in this video, you'll see why it is so important to do so. Anyways, it's also important to note that this technique does come with pros and cons. The pro being that this is the fastest way to recharge your tactical sprint, but on the downside, there's a slight delay when you hit the ground after diving, thus affecting your mobility. So with that information, I urge you to use it wisely. While I consider this technique to be more of a defensive style, in some cases you can use it offensively. For example, you can dolphin dive around corners, through windows and doors to give enemies the element of surprise. There's also a dolphin dive strategy that allows you to traverse from roof to roof by dolphin diving and instantly pulling your parachute. This significantly boosts your travel distance further than if you were to jump across. The possibilities are endless with this mechanic, and there's so much to learn. But for now, let's step into some of the more advanced movement techniques. Let's start off with the most anticipated one: slide cancelling. This is pretty much the most popular movement mechanic there is in Warzone. As the name suggests, this is a technique that allows you to cancel your slide. Now you might be wondering, what's so effective about cancelling your slide? Well, to answer your question, when you perform a slide, there's a noticeable difference during the slide animation before you're able to shoot again. This is where the cancelling part comes in handy. Performing a cancel will completely get rid of the delay, thus allowing you to aim and shoot at enemies a lot faster. This technique can also help you in close quarter combats to confuse enemies and break their aim by quickly changing positions. Now, to perform a successful slide cancel, you'll need 3 of your buttons along with your joystick: tactical sprint, slide, and jump buttons. First, you'll want to make sure that you're sprinting. There are 2 separate ways to do this. Number 1 is to simply push your joystick forward until your character enters a running animation. And the second way is to simply tap your tactical sprint button. Now while this is happening, you'll need to tap the slide button to obviously slide, and then quickly tap the jump button to cancel that slide. Also, just a tip, if you want to have a smoother experience, make sure to turn sprint to stand on. And that's it. With enough practice, you'll master this technique in no time. Anyways, now we're moving on to snaking. This skill allows you to gather intel on your surroundings while simultaneously taking cover, thus having less exposure to potential threats. This is one of the most effective techniques you can learn as it helps you in really vulnerable situations. To do this move, you'll need to repeatedly tap the prone and crouch button one after the other while moving the joystick in a forward position to stand up and then backwards while re-entering the prone position. This goes without saying that you should have your crouch separated from your prone button to successfully execute this technique. Since we're on the topic of snaking, let's dive into another movement mechanic which figuratively turns you into a snake, and that is drop shot. This is pretty self-explanatory. Drop shotting is a technique which allows you to transition from a standing to a prone position while simultaneously shooting at the enemy. This is one of the most effective ways to successfully counter an enemy's attack when caught off guard, especially in close range fights, as it makes it difficult for enemies to recenter their crosshair to accurately shoot you. At range, drop shotting also significantly reduces your recoil, thus improving your overall accuracy, which is why you'll sometimes see me drop shotting enemies at a distance in my gameplays. To effectively perform a drop shot, you need to shoot at the enemy, then quickly tap the prone button to instantly enter the prone position while continuing to shoot. For maximum effectiveness, I'd recommend hip firing before you ADS to prevent the delay caused by ADSing. For those whose prone button is merged with the crouch, again, I can't stress this enough. This is why I highly recommend the buttons being separated. Holding down instead of just tapping the button is a lot slower, and this could be the difference between actually surviving and dying. By now, you should all realize how much of a disadvantage it is pertaining to movement having the buttons merged. Anyways, moving on to the notorious jump shot. Jump shotting, as its name suggests, is jumping in the air while shooting at your enemy. You'll see a lot of sturdy players performing this technique in game, as it's undoubtedly the most overpowered movement in Warzone Mobile. This technique requires a lot of practice, as you need very accurate and precise aim to effectively pull it off. This is so because while performing this movement, it ultimately makes you a harder target to hit, but at the same time, your own accuracy will be greatly affected due to you repeatedly jumping. This technique also makes it less likely for enemies to hit headshots, while conversely making you more likely to hit those headshots if done correctly. You can also strafe jump from side to side to make you less predictable to enemies. Out of all the movement mechanics, this is the one I'd recommend you put a lot more time and effort into mastering, especially if you have a more aggressive playstyle. Moving on to one of my favorite movement on this list, we have the rechal. This is a technique that's used to outplay your opponents by running behind cover to break their line of sight and then jumping back out of cover to re-challenge them. To do this movement effectively, you need to run behind cover, turn around, and then quickly tap the tack sprint button and jump out of cover to surprise them with this attack. This usually catches them way off guard, as they're not expecting you to rechal. Anyways, before we hop into the last one, there's a very interesting movement mechanic that I really want to touch on, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is YY. This is quickly switching in between weapons to create this crazy looking hand effect. Primarily, switching weapons is a mechanic used to perform a reload cancel. But nowadays, you'll see a lot of sweat/movement kings abusing this move by spamming the weapon switch button only because it's visually pleasing, but in reality does absolutely nothing. If you've made it this far into the video, then you're in luck, because I've saved the absolute best for last. Previously, I showed you guys how to both drop shot and jump shot, but for the last technique, I'll be combining both into something I like to call drop jump shot. To perform a drop jump shot while shooting, you quickly tap the prone button and then repeatedly tap the jump button. I've been playing this game for almost a year, ever since its first limited release, and I've hosted a ton of custom lobbies on my live channel, and out of every single movement going up against sweats, I can confidently say that this is the hardest one to counter. If you master this technique, then you're well on your way of becoming one of the greatest in this game. But anyways, there you have it guys, those are the top 10 ultimate movement that you need in order to become a pro. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below what's your favorite technique that we've discussed today, and also which ones are your strengths and weaknesses. If you found this video helpful and want to see more videos like this, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Warzone Mobile content. Also, subscribe to my live channel as well for some Warzone Mobile streams. This is Yanrique signing out, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.